What is going on, everybody? My name is Alex, and this is your ultimate solo guide to explain everything step by step for the Forsaken Easter egg. Obviously, there are a ton of guides out there, but what I'm trying to do with this one is set you up so that you have a streamlined experience rather than getting bombarded with a bunch of random steps and having to throw them all together in a way that you just may not understand. Now, the cool part about Treyarch's Easter eggs nowadays is that you can do any part whenever you want, more or less, depending on a couple of things, of course, but for the most part, it's up to you. But in this guide, I'm going to show you the most efficient way as of now for the solo player to complete the Forsaken Easter egg. Now, please keep in mind that we will be slightly skimming some of the processes for the Wonder Weapon build because I already have a video for that on the channel. You can check it out here with the card popping up on your screen. We're still going to go over it, so don't worry, but not as in much detail as we did in that other video. All right, well, let's get into it. So this quest is essentially broken into three main parts: opening up the map and building everything, destroying these dark ether clusters and collecting fuel, and then the boss fight. And I'm going to break it down and try to be as detailed as possible. So let's jump into the proper loadout first. That's going to help us get through all of these steps. So for my loadout, I've been going with something a little bit different than I'm used to, but right now I recommend the Grav, which is the new rifle for Season 6, but really any assault rifle that you enjoy will work just fine. I also have been using Frost Blast as my field upgrade because the buff that Treyarch has patched in from a few months ago has made this field upgrade super powerful, and it charges super fast and also has 3 uses with it, making it very efficient. We're also going to be carrying the Wonder Weapon into this boss fight and building it for this guide like I already mentioned, but if you want a third weapon to use with Mule Kick, I recommend bringing a shotgun just in case, because a Panzer pops in towards the end of the boss fight and it can really mess with you if you're not paying attention right away. All right, so let's begin with the Easter egg steps. So for the first block of Easter egg steps, we're going to want to turn on the power, turn on Pack-a-Punch, and activate the Forsaken intro cutscene. To do this, you need to open up the map, follow the indicators on your screen, kill zombies for points, collect the 4 pieces to repair the teleporter, kill the abomination, take the teleporter up to the observation tower, turn on the power, and free Zykov/release the Forsaken. So this next part is basically the brunt of the egg, and there are a couple of different avenues we can take here, but our main goal is to get the Wonder Weapon while beefing up our player, and simultaneously we want to gather the parts for the Aetherium Neutralizer. Building this machine allows us to travel through the dark ether to get to the other side of the map to help Samantha take down the Forsaken, which is the big bad dude we saw in the intro cinematic. Alright, now getting the Wonder Weapon is key here because we need it to smash these piles of dark ether crystal clusters, and there are a few ways to achieve this. The first way to try and get the Wonder Weapon is to build it yourself, or you can hit the mystery box, complete some trial challenges, as well as going to the arcade to play some games to get lucky with a golden loot crate. But like I said, for this video, we are going to be speaking from the perspective of building the Chrysalax yourself, and honestly, this is way more fun and tactical. Now, the way I want you guys to think about completing the bulk of this setup is to think about collecting 1 piece of the Wonder Weapon and 1 piece of the Neutralizer at the same time. So for our first pieces, you're going to want to head over to Main Street after we have acted Forsaken, mind you, and just kill zombies for 2 more rounds. After those 2 rounds are complete, the first crystal is going to fall from the sky, and when you go over to that crystal, you're going to get swarmed by elite enemies. Just continue to kill all of the enemies and zombies and just farm points. After you complete this defense event, you will notice that the crystals barrier is gone. Now go ahead and pick up this orange crystal, and that is piece number 1 of the Wonder Weapon. Now we just need to get out our first piece of the Neutralizer. Now you're going to want to head over to Spawn to buy Death Perception so that you can get salvage more quickly, as we are going to need 100 of the rare salvage to buy a flamethrower, and we're going to be using that for our second crystal collection for the Wonder Weapon. And keep in mind, you can go and get the flamethrower or Death Perception during the elite surge for crystal number 1 if you feel like you're able to do that, but it's honestly just better to wait in case you need to buy Jug or something else first, because things can get wild pretty quickly. You are also going to want to put the Deadwire ammo mod on your weapon as well, because this turns on an arcade machine that will give us access to a special RC car. So after you put the ammo mod on your weapon, hop on down to the arcade and kill a zombie by this arcade machine that says Grand Prix. It has to be this machine specifically, and once you shoot the zombie with your ammo mod, the zombie's electric shock will power on the arcade machine, and you will have to pay around 2,000 points to drive the RC car into the TV shop to blow out a special TV from behind a wall. Once you do that, you will hear an activation completion noise, and you can then head over to the TV shop to pick up that television protruding from the wall. Now, a pro tip is to try to do this as soon as possible, as you don't want the car to get swarmed by sprinting zombies in later rounds, and also try to do it at the end of a round because you will likely run into a horde of zombies and the car will blow up and you'll just waste so many points for no reason. After you blow up the wall, pick up the TV and move on to collect our next crystal for the wonder weapon. Alright, so at this point in the Easter egg, you should have the first part of the wonder weapon and the first part of the Aetherium Neutralizer, as well as death perception and a flamethrower or whatever other pieces you have collected along the way. Let's move on, shall we? Now we are going to head over to check out all of the Dark Aether crystal cluster locations to see which ones have the Tempest and Tormentors, to blast them with our flamethrower and pick up our second crystal for the wonder weapon. We are not going to destroy these piles quite yet, so you can leave them alone for now, but we will be back. The Aether clusters are static locations, so you can find them at the same locations every time. They are located at spawn, near the particle accelerator in the Dark Aether, and atop the roof in the main street area above Tombstone Soda. Once you figure out which cluster has the Tormentors, pull out your flamethrower and burn those bad boys to a crisp, and one of them will drop the second part for the wonder weapon. After you pick this up, you're going to want to head over to the boardroom so we can get our second piece of the Aetherium Neutralizer, as well as the final crystal for the wonder weapon from the Abomination that we find inside of this boardroom. When you enter the boardroom, the Abomination will spawn and he will charge at you, so make sure you're standing in this corner that I'm showing you on screen so that he can knock down an item that you can collect to build this neutralizer. After he knocks it down, move over into this hallway over here and stand in front of a crystal. Let him shock you and move out of the way and let him hit this crystal so that he can convert it into the final crystal that you need for the wonder weapon. Alright, so at this point we should have the wonder weapon ready to be built and one more piece of the neutralizer to find in order to build. And in order to get that final piece, we are going to have to enable a lockdown defense sequence, which is actually pretty tough, so let's go ahead and build the wonder weapon first before we enter this area. To complete the final stage of the wonder weapon build, head over to the Dark Aether water behind the particle accelerator. Put the crystals inside of the water and get about 10 melee kills, pick up the wonder weapon and head over to the fuel center to perform a lockdown to get that final piece of the Aetherium Neutralizer. When you head over to perform this task, grab some perks or pack-a-punch the Chrysalax because, as I mentioned, this part gets pretty intense pretty quickly. You are going to want to go over to this panel and interact with it, and it basically goes crazy for the next little while. Now, this part doesn't allow you to earn points, which stinks, but you will be fine for ammo, and the axe is super OP, so in all honesty, you should be totally fine. Now, after you complete this lockdown, grab the fuel canister from the middle of the area, and let's move on to our next block of objectives. So, the next set of objectives are honestly the fun part in my opinion. The whole map is pretty fun and all very chaotic, but I think this is the most fun part. Now, before we do this next step, you got to make sure that you're pack-a-punching along the way and getting perks as you need, because you slowly want to be building yourself up as you are working towards the end game of this map. And this next section of destroying these Dark Aether crystal clusters, it gets pretty intense pretty quick. All right, so make sure that you're prepared when you're entering this next phase. Now, when you arrive at these clusters, you're going to want to shoot the orbs, and as you keep popping one off, you're going to notice that they start speeding around, and there's going to be tons of zombies coming towards you, and they're all catered to have special elite enemies at the particular location of wherever you are. Once you destroy all the orbs, you're going to want to switch to the axe variant of the wonder weapon and swing at it so that the whole pile is destroyed. Once we do this, a little tiny crystal will be sitting inside of the middle. You're going to want to go ahead and pick it up, but make sure that you notice it replaces your tactical item. These are the items that are attached to Q on PC or LB on your controller for console. And while you're grabbing this little tiny crystal, an abomination is going to spawn in. And do not kill it. I repeat, do not kill it. You are going to want to wait for this dude to go through his attack phases, and it should be a relatively low round at this point, like mid-teens, so you shouldn't be too worried about getting one-shotted or anything. And then once he is done acting a fool, he will kind of growl and all of the mouths will glow purple, and this is when you throw the stone. The abomination will catch it and swallow it, and you will know you have done this successfully because you will hear a weird gulping noise and all the heads will bob like they just swallowed something. After the abomination swallows it, his tail and that little dude at the end of it will glow red, and you just need to kill the abomination. Once you kill the beast, he will drop a shard that you can put inside of your fuel canister, and it's all starting to come together now. Another pro tip, don't worry about screwing this up, as you can miss throwing the crystal at the abomination forever as long as you just don't kill him. But what happens if you kill him? I can hear you asking. Just move on to the next cluster and then come back to the one you messed up later and wait for the abomination to spawn in normally and complete the step that way. I would caution you to do your best not to do that because the abominations don't spawn in too often, so it really puts you in the higher rounds if you put it off. And if that is something you're trying to avoid, you may just want to get it done right the first time, so just make sure you're being careful. I also recommend doing this step individually at each Dark Aether cluster, so rather than just destroying them all and circling back and having 3 abominations on the map and just wasting that free spawned abomination if you decide to kill them, just take it one at a time and then move on to the next cluster. Alright, so after you've destroyed all 3 clusters, fed 3 abominations as well as killed them, it's time to build the Aetherium Neutralizer. Head over to the area where Tombstone Soda is on the main floor of Main Street, and you will see a giant blockade and a crafting table right in the center. Craft the Neutralizer there. Now things are up to you for the next little bit. You can either build your character up more, which you will have been doing during the whole Easter egg process, or you can just jump into the boss fight immediately and see what's going on over there. I don't know, do what you gotta do, I guess. But whatever you do decide to do, once you interact with the machine, there is no going back, so you have to make a commitment. Once you decide what you're gonna do, the next process in this Easter egg is escorting this machine down a long street in a long driveway where you will eventually see red crystals on either side of you, as well as a bunch of scaffolding. Now, zombies are going to be spawning in, and you will obviously have to kill them to survive, but what the main goal is here is to keep this machine fueled. You're going to see these red crystals on either side of you, which I've just mentioned, on the roadway and inside of the scaffolding, and the machine will stop once it runs out of fuel. You're going to have to get out of its safe zone to break the crystals, grab a fuel shard, and bring it back to the neutralizer. These are, in theory, I guess narratively, the same shards that the abomination created for us, but now they're just inside of the ether crystals. You're going to have to do this at least half a dozen times. Just make sure that you're quick. Look for ladders both ahead and behind you so that you can quickly jump on them to retrieve the crystals that are higher up on the second floor of the scaffolding, because you will get to a space where there's just nothing nearby on the low level, and you want to be aware of your surroundings so that you don't get killed from negligence. Once you make it to the end of the driveway, the neutralizer will collapse, and you can pack a punch or get some perks, get a score streak, whatever your heart desires, and then once you are ready, you can go in and start the boss fight with the Forsaken. Alright, let's talk about the boss fight and how to beat it. Honestly, guys, this boss fight has a lot of cool mechanics. I don't think it's super hard, but it's actually pretty fun, and I wish it was a little more difficult, but the mechanics are great and very, very well executed. So how does the whole thing work? Well, the Forsaken has 4 weak points, both of his shoulders, his head, and his stomach. They are all covered up with armor that you need to destroy by shooting at it, which is where the assault rifle or a wonder weapon SMG variant comes in. You will also notice a ton of enemies along with Samantha Maxes flying around and 2 huge turrets on either side of the Forsaken facing toward him. Maxis has the power to turn the turrets on for you and use them against the Forsaken, and in order to do that, we need to power her up by getting kills in the circle that's surrounding her on the ground. Once either one or both of the turrets are ready to go, start shooting at the Forsaken's shoulders. I start with whichever shoulder is closest to the turret that Maxis just powered on. Once the armor cracks off, you hop on the turret and blast the Forsaken. Now, I am almost certain that no enemies can attack you while you are using the turret, but I don't know, I don't always trust it, so sometimes I throw a decoy or I pop my Frost Blast just to be safe, or you can use a Monkey Bomb or a Casimir Grenade, whatever you really want. It just depends on your situation. So, we are going to rinse and repeat this cycle for both shoulders. Now, the attacks that occur during these phases of the boss fight are pretty basic, but for the first shoulder, we're going to just have one attack. It's simply a shockwave blast that powers through the arena, and you can dodge it by stepping behind the turret platform or even hopping on it as well. The next attack will come after you blow off the first shoulder / the Forsaken's arm. He'll have this little dinky arm. It's so funny looking. And this next sequence has 2 attacks, the shockwave slam and these red orbs that kind of shock you to death. They follow you around the map for a little bit. They kind of remind me of the Blood of the Dead boss fight orbs because you can shoot them to defuse them, but they're actually deadly in this case. Once we blow off both of his shoulders and knock the Forsaken's health down, we're going to be teleported to an area where we see our whole team dead. And I'm pretty sure this is a hallucination, so don't worry, you actually haven't died. It's part of the narrative elements, but this pisses off Maxis and she rescues you out of it. So don't worry, you're not down. You're going to still be going. After we make our way back to the arena, you will see that the armor health bar is full again. And we're going to want to do the same thing that we just did with both shoulders, but we're going to be doing it with the head and the stomach. Now, for this part, you can start with either the head or the stomach. In this case, I have started with the stomach and ended with the head. I think that's what I did. But the result is the same. Fill up Maxis with souls, let her charge the turret, blow the Forsaken's armor off with your gun, and then blow off his body parts with the turret. Now, the attacks in the second half of the boss fight are amped up for sure, as he adds both a Frost Blast attack that spreads all over the map and like follows you and makes you slow down dramatically. He also has that shockwave wave and those red orbs. And then when you're on the final segment of his body, he will shoot out a large electrical beam from his head, and this thing can mess you up, so beware for sure. All of this is going on while you have zombies, mimics, disciples, manglers, abominations, and then there are eventually panzers, which is where that shotgun's coming in. And all of this gets pretty hectic pretty fast. I don't think there are any tormentors in the boss fight that I can recall, but there are definitely no megatons, thank God. And once you shoot off the armor from the head and the stomach of the Forsaken and use the turrets on this bad boy, you will finally deplete him of all of his health and the cutscene will start playing. Once this happens, you can officially say that you have beaten the Forsaken main quest and get all the girls in the world, bro. You finally did it. You are officially a Giga Chad. Congratulations. Please keep an eye out for the review of this map coming out soon, plus a bunch of other content surrounding it and Season 6. I hope you are all having a wonderful, wonderful day and or evening wherever you are. Don't forget to like the video if it helped you out and you liked it, and dislike it if you don't, and leave a comment asking me a question so that I can clarify. Subscribe for more content, and as always, I will see you all in the next one. Skeptics out. Cheers.